Hey, welcome to Long Game Yoga. I'm Ken, and this is my beginner series for athletes. So maybe you've been active doing running, doing cycling, doing whatever. If you're playing basketball, maybe you haven't added yoga to your routine, and this is what this is here for. I want you to try adding yoga to your routine. And I know yoga can be a little bit intimidating. And I don't mean that in like, yoga's scary, but I mean, you have to find a studio, you have to show up, people know what they're doing, maybe you don't know what they're doing, maybe everybody who's there is like super young and super fit. But don't worry, if you know what you're doing with your body, you can do yoga, and it's so beneficial for you. Strengthening and lengthening the muscles, building up all that support around your joints, keeping things open, keeping things extended and up. It's so good for you. So hopefully you clicked on this for a reason. The way this is going to work is I'm going to demo a bunch of poses for you and explain how they should look and feel. So that's the alignment. And then once we cover those poses, I'm going to just lead a short flow that you can do right through the poses so that you can take what you've learned and use it in the context of an actual flow. There'll be the titles and descriptions so that if you need to go back, you can find a pose if you want to do it. It'll be that way for all the videos in the series. And I do have the series planned as an actual series. So this is episode 1. This is the like welcome to it one. And then they'll get a little bit more advanced as we go. And nothing is going to get super advanced. Like this series is not going to cover, inversions, handstands, headstands, arm balances, that more advanced stuff. This is really designed so that you can jump into any of my flows on the channel and know what I'm talking about. And it will also allow you to jump into any other flows online that you want to do, or show up at a studio and not be completely like, what am I doing? Couple things, to that effect. This is what I teach is vinyasa yoga. So vinyasa flow. It's part of the hatha family. I'm not going to get too into the names or the lineage because I just want this to be very accessible and practical for you, right? I do use props, and I recommend that if this is something that's interesting to you, if it kind of grabs hold, pick them up. It's easy to get it secondhand, or it's pretty cheap online. Yoga mat is good, so you're not going to slip. 2 blocks is what I recommend because these things are tools that are going to help you, right? They're not cheating at all. This is really just tools, equipment that you want to use. You can get them foamy. I like them with the cork. They're a little heavier, a little solid. They make it feel like you're really just extending the floor, which is what it is. And then also a yoga strap. They come with a little loop that you can put around various parts of your body. Mostly your feet. And so it's a pretty easy setup, right? You don't need a lot you can roll it up and stick it in the corner, and then when you want to do a flow, just take it out and put it down. So hopefully that's straightforward enough. I'm going to keep it super simple. You may have seen a bunch of these poses before. I think everybody knows what like Warrior 2 looks like, stuff like that. But I just want to break it down so that you have the knowledge and you can feel it in your own body and see what it feels like. So, if that all makes sense, thanks for being here. I know that like starting something new, if this is new to you, is intimidating, and it's there's some friction, right? You like have to sit down and watch a video. But maybe you clicked on this for a reason. Maybe this is something that you've wanted to try for a while. If you're an athlete, if you're an active person, I guarantee this stuff is going to really help you. It's helped me. I've been a runner for oh my gosh, almost 35 years. I've been a cyclist for just as long. I stay really active. I also, as you see if you clicked on the intro video on my channel, I'm a registered yoga teacher. I've been teaching public studio classes for 4 years now. And I'm a huge believer that yoga can give us all kinds of benefits. So how about we get started? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lie down flat on the mat. I'm pretty sure we can all handle this one. Ugh. So when we start a yoga flow, and the way I start all my flows on the channel, of course, is reclined, right? Just lay back, let the feet drop out to the side, let the arms drop out to the side. The palms can be facing the ceiling. Take a nice deep inhale and a nice exhale just to let it out. So we'll just be here for a moment because I want to emphasize a couple things. The first thing is it's so nice when we start a flow just to come into the body, see how the body's feeling at that moment. Maybe you just worked out, maybe you're planning on working out later today, but just do a quick, body scan, see how you feel. What feels tight? Can you feel the weight of the limbs just on the mat, on the ground, on the floor? Can you let the tension out of the muscles for a second? So when we pay attention to the body, we stay in the present moment. And that's another big part of our practice, because it's nice to just focus on where your feet are, where your limbs are, what muscles you're engaging, rather than thinking about, your annoying brother-in-law, your annoying boss, whatever other people might be in your lives that are annoying you. Or just whatever it is, right? That idea that we're making space in our minds through our yoga practices is another big part of it too. So these beginning parts of practice, we're really just looking to bring that attention to the body, like I said, and bring some attention also to the breathing. So I'll probably do a separate episode at some point just on breath work and yoga. But I think at the basic level, it's just this. We can park our attention on our breathing as we're doing yoga, and it keeps us focused because the breath is always there, right? Keeps us focused, and then if we want to deepen that sense of focus, we can lengthen out the breath. So at a very basic level, when I'm flowing through my yoga practice and my own practice or the classes that I teach, I emphasize this idea of just lengthening the breath. So taking an inhale, maybe 4 or 5 seconds, and then a nice slow exhale for the same amount of time. It's pretty simple. So just see how your breath feels right now. And let's talk about our first actual pose. So we're staying on the mat. It's reclined mountain pose. And what we want to do is we want to take this sense of being on the mat and make it into an active pose. So let's do that. Let's bring the feet together. Flex the feet, point the toes up to the ceiling. And then think about this. Press the big toe mound, which is that area right under your big toe, forward a little bit and peel back the pinky toe side edge of the foot. And then press the heels down into the mat. Press the thigh bones down into the mat. Feel the kneecaps pull towards your hips. And then point your tailbone a little bit toward your heels, right? Those simple things just make it so that the legs are engaged. And then you can really, as you press down, you can feel your quad muscles engaging. And then feel from the heels all the way up through the crown of your head. This sense of activation, it's like you're standing on the wall in front of you, right? It's that same alignment. And now because we're on the back, on the mat, we can feel that sense of one continuous line, right? Memorize how this feels, because this is something we're going to bring into other poses, particularly when we start doing standing poses in later episodes, but just tune into this, start to get the body engaged. My arms are relaxed, the palms are still facing up at the ceiling. We like to do that because that gets that external rotation in the upper arms. It helps us to broaden across the chest and the collarbones. And then what we're going to do is we're going to play around with the strap. So let's grab that strap. So we're going to talk about hand to big toe. I'm not going to use the Sanskrit names for these things, but let's go ahead and let's do this. Let's leave that left leg nice and engaged in that reclined mountain pose shape. Pull the other leg into your chest. And again, we're not going to go through a flow on this. I'm just going to demo what this is like. So pull that knee into the chest, and then we're taking the strap and we're bringing it around the ball of the foot. So that's that upper area of the foot where the toes meet the rest of the foot. Bring that strap around there and then just straighten the leg up to the ceiling. This is where we use the strap. This is a tool. If you've got the ability to just grab your foot without lifting your shoulders up off the mat, keeping everything down, you could go ahead and do that. But we do want to use this strap. You know, this is our yoga equipment. And you'd use it the same way you use equipment in your other sports. You know, if you're a cyclist, you've got your cycling shoes. If you're a runner, you've got your running shoes. For this, we just want to use the right equipment. So notice what's happening here. My lifted leg is nice and straight. Now, it doesn't matter if it's down here and straight, and that's as far as you can get it, that's fine. If it can go a little bit farther toward the wall behind you, that's fine too, but we don't want it bent, right? When we have it nice and straight, we're getting this great stretch for the hamstrings. And boy, those are muscles that could use it all the time, right? But this pose is not just about the lifted leg, it's also the leg that's on the mat. Because my left leg, I'm keeping it extended, I'm keeping it active, I'm pressing that heel a little bit down into the mat. So that's engaged. I'm not straining in the face and the neck and the shoulders, I'm just gently holding the strap. And if you really want to not strain, you could just wrap the strap around your hands like that, and then just kind of park them right there. Keep that lifted leg straight, feel that stretch. Try not to let this right hip hike up toward your shoulder. So the hips are staying level. And that's that hand to big toe. So now we'll just let that strap go. Let's lower the foot down. And then to transition from this reclined mountain pose to our next pose, go ahead and pull both knees into your chest. So this is a nice way to just sort of neutralize everything, pull everything in tight, wrap your hands around your shins, listen to your ankles pop if that's what's going to happen. Mine just did. And then let us come down into what's called tabletop pose, because the next two poses we're going to look at come from tabletop: cat pose, cow pose. And you'll see these in so many yoga classes. You'll see them in basically every class that I teach and every flow I have here on my channel, because it's such a good way to get into the spine, to like take that whole upper body and keep it nice and limber. So what do? When we come to our tabletop, we want to do a couple things. We want to get the shoulders right above the wrists, right? That's super important. We also want to get the hips right above the knees. That's also super important. So you can see it's like a tabletop with 4 legs. Now, what are you going to do with your hands? Take a look down and look at your wrist crease, right? That's this part right here. See if you can get it parallel to the short edge of the mat in front of you. Another way to judge that is maybe get your index fingers parallel to one another. Makes the number 11. And then spread your fingers nice and wide. And then grab the mat a little bit. Like, think like little gecko hands. This is also something that not only does it help you feel connected and stable, but it also, works on your grip strength a little bit. I mean, this isn't going to give you the great, ripped forearms, but you're engaging those muscles. And then I'm kind of spinning my biceps forward a little. You can probably see that. There's this rotation of the upper arm that I'm getting. And then my feet, I look back and they're not dumping in or dumping out. I'm reaching back with the big toes and pressing the tops of the feet down into the mat. So it's like if you could picture if you were wearing sneakers, where the laces would be, that's the point that you want to press down into the mat. So this is tabletop. The spine is neutral. It's a natural shape here. And from here, we're going to move into our cow pose. And so what we're going to do is we're going to drop the belly. We're going to lift the gaze. So I'm looking forward. And I'm thinking about pulling my heart forward. I'm also lifting the hips. So what this is doing is it's stretching the front body, right? I can feel it all the way from the belly button up to, the collarbones. I'm getting this nice stretch. At the same time, my back body is contracting. And then we're going to transition to cat pose. And so what we do with that is we start to round the spine, starting at the tailbone. And then you're raising the middle of your back up to the ceiling. So that part between your shoulder blades is getting nice and wide here. You're pulling the shoulder blades apart from one another, letting the head hang. And now we're stretching the back body while contracting the front body. And then we're just going to flow. So what you do is you just start at the low back, the tailbone, and start to make this wave that travels up the length of the spine. And it starts to round in the other direction. And if you do this slowly enough, you feel each vertebrae moving. You're starting to wake up the torso here. You're getting into the muscles that run along the spine. There's 3 layers of muscles there that help support and protect the spine. And this is just starting to move into it. So this is a really simple flow. Cat and cow. And I'll tell you what, if I only have, 3 minutes to do yoga on a day, this is how I'm going to spend those 3 minutes, because I think this is just such a good way to keep the back, in a good spot, nice and supple, nice and limber, nice and strong, nice and balanced. So those are your cats and your cows. One other thing is, if you are flowing through it, you can combine the breath with this motion. So it would be exhaling as you round through that cat, and then inhaling as you come through that cow. So it's pretty straightforward. So let's come back to a neutral tabletop. And then what we're going to look at while we're here, I think this is a nice pose that we can add in. We're going to take a look at our spinal balance. So from our tabletop, let's step the right foot back and then take a couple rocks back and forth. So as you push back, you'll notice you're feeling a bit of a stretch in the calf, up the back of the leg. And then go ahead, bring the shoulders above the wrists again. And on your inhale, float that foot up. So I'm floating the right foot up. The toes are pointing down. The foot is still flexed. I'm thinking about pushing through the heel. And same thing as we did with the strap when we were on our back. I'm pulling the quad muscles to that thigh bone on the right leg. So really engaging that leg. And then to get the spinal balance part of it, I'm bringing the left arm up by the left ear. So I'm not thinking about how high I'm trying to get things. I'm trying to think about how long I'm trying to get things. So I'm really reaching the fingers forward. I'm really reaching the heel back, keeping all those muscles engaged. All this posterior chain is engaged here. So the hamstring is working, the glute is working, the back muscles are working, up by my shoulder, that's working. So that's that spinal balance shape. If you want to add on to that, let's do this. Let's come back into that spinal balance shape. Let's take an inhale and we reach. And on the exhale, go ahead, bring your elbow right to your knee. So you're curling up. You're finding a little bit of that cat, right? So see how round my spine is here? And then I'm inhaling to extend. Exhale to come in. So it's this little crunch. You're getting the core involved. You're finding that stretch in the back. And then extend. So that's the spinal balance. So it's an addition to that tabletop that we did. And if you've been doing it and your wrist is sore, you can just come onto the back of your hand like this and just stretch it out a little bit. So next we're going to look at child's pose. It's part of every yoga class. It's an important part of every yoga class because it gives us an opportunity to rest. It gives us an opportunity to tune back into the breath, feel the effects of what we're doing. So from tabletop, go ahead and do this. Bring your big toes together, the sides of the big toes, and then separate the knees a little bit. And then you just sink the hips down and back. So I'll show you a variation or two on this, because this doesn't always work for everybody, depending on how your knees are. But so there's 2 flavors. You can keep your arms out in front. So this is more of an active child's pose. My elbows aren't touching the ground. See how they're lifted? Maybe I'm resting my forehead or chin on the mat. So that's the active version of child's pose. There's another version where you can take your hands down by your feet, down by your ankles, and just rest your forehead on the mat. So my torso is between my thighs. My forehead's resting on the mat. I'm letting the shoulders just round forward. And so from this pose, you feel this sense of grounding. Right, I'm supported by the mat. I'm not efforting at all. I'm just coming back to the sense of breathing. And from child's pose, you can really feel that breath on the back. So as you inhale, you feel those ribs expand. And as you exhale, they contract a bit. So I know that child's pose does not work for everybody because, again, this is a big deep bend in the knees. So if that's bothersome for you, if your knees just don't want to do that, what you can do instead is take what's called a puppy pose. So it's kind of the same thing where I reach the arms forward, but instead of sinking the hips down and back, I'm just leaving the hips high. Maybe come down on the forearms, come down on the elbows, stretch it out like that. So the hips are high. It's giving you the same grounding effect that you would get. It's a rest pose. And if that doesn't work at all for you, right, if that's just like, nope, my legs don't want to do any of that, you can always just sit cross-legged. You know, if there's that point in a flow where I say, come to child's pose, and child's pose doesn't work for you, boom, you just sit down comfortably. And that works for you just as well. So let's come back to tabletop here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make our way to a downward facing dog. So I don't know, maybe down dog is like the most common pose in yoga. It's what people think of when they think of yoga. So let's start in the tabletop again, right? Hands are right underneath the shoulders. I'm spinning those biceps forward, so we're rotating that external rotation of the upper arm. And then from here, I'm going to tuck my toes. And then I'm going to lift the hips up and back. Maybe step the feet back a little bit. And then I'm pushing the hips up and back. So in our down dog, it's going to look like an upside down V shape, right? I'm pushing the mat away. And what I want ideally, and this is going to depend on your body. So we want to get long and a straight line from the wrist crease up to the sit bones. And then from the sit bones down to the heels. So a couple things here. Doesn't matter if your heels are touching the mat or not. That's such a function of your natural flexibility and your genetics. You know, some people can do it and they can get their heels nice and down on the ground. But if I try it, I'm sacrificing what's going on with the arms. And my shoulders tend to be pretty tight anyways. So it's a little challenging for me to even get my biceps by my ears, which is another one of those things you want to do. But this is really to lengthen out the spine. And when you come into a down dog, it's okay to bend the legs, right? Especially when you're first coming into it. Bend the legs, bend the knees, push the hips up and back. And then in time, you can straighten the legs. And one thing you'll hear me cue sometimes in my videos is you can just walk out your dog. And what that means is you come to down dog and then bend one leg, press into the straight leg, and then switch. So bending the other leg, straightening into the other leg, and then you just go side to side. This is great after you've gone running or something. If your legs are a little bit tight, you want to wake them up. This really gets into the hamstrings. It gets into a stretch all the way down through the calf muscles. Now, what are the hands doing? Again, the fingers are spread. Maybe the fingers are even pointing out. We don't want them pointing in toward one another. That's not great on the shoulder joint. So we want them either with the index fingers pointed straight ahead or maybe out to the sides a little bit. And again, we're thinking about rotating the shoulders out. The external rotation of the upper arm. Hopefully that feels nice and stable on your shoulders. And then we're just resting here. This can be a strong pose. You know, if you hold this pose for 5 minutes, you will feel it. And so that's your down dog. So those are the poses just to get you started and feeling comfortable on the mat. Okay, everyone. So hopefully that all makes sense. You know, those are marked in there so you can go back and check through them. And also, you know, if you feel like you didn't get everything out of that, don't worry about it because you'll find those poses in all the flows. And the more you encounter it, the more you see how it feels yourself, the easier it's going to be to just be like, oh yeah, I know what spinal balance feels like. Oh, I know what down dog feels like. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to just run through a little bit of a flow that takes all those pieces that we just looked at and combines them into one sequence. It'll be maybe 10 minutes long or something like that. So if you want to go back and review, you can do that. Otherwise, just follow along and just try it and we'll see how it feels, okay? So let's start on our back like we did. Have that strap handy nearby where you can grab it without having to reach for it. And then just come down flat on your back. So let's find this relaxed shape. And this shape is really called savasana. That translates to corpse pose, which maybe doesn't feel like the most pleasant thing to think about, but that's what it translates to. But it's just this pose of relaxation where we're not holding any tension in the muscles. The feet are dropping out to the side. You're on the back of the hands, so the palms are facing upward. Everything along the back is touching the mat. You might feel the curves of the spine, so the low back might not be touching the mat. Under your neck isn't going to be touching the mat because we do have this series of natural curves to the spine. But as you come down, just start to relax. And then let's start our flow with a nice couple of deep breaths. So take a nice inhale, bring that air all the way down to your belly. Let the lungs fill, and then go ahead, exhale. Let the lungs empty. Inhale again. Exhale again. We'll do it one more time. Inhale again. And then we exhale. Just send your attention through the body for a moment. See how it feels. If there's any tight spot, just note it. If you're dealing with any injuries, just work around them. Don't do anything that doesn't feel good. We're going to come into our first active pose, our reclined mountain pose. So go ahead, straighten into the legs. The feet are flexed. You're pointing the toes up to the ceiling. And then push the big toe mound forward. Peel that pinky toe side edge of the foot back. And then start to press the heels down into the mat. Feel that engagement of the legs. Press your thighs down toward the mat. And then pull the kneecaps up toward your hip. So it's this motion where you're just kind of pulling them up. Point your tailbone toward your heels. It's not a big tilt, it's just a tiny little tilt that gets us into that alignment of standing. And then feel that connection from your heels all the way up through the crown of your head. You can bring your arms by your side, palms are still facing up. And then we're going to leave the left leg in place. Go ahead, pull that right knee into the chest. And so while you're here, maybe take some circles with the knee. So you're really rotating the thigh bone around in the hip socket. Go one direction. If you go one direction, you can go the opposite direction. We like to keep a sense of balance here. You might want to rotate the ankle while you've got it here. One direction, then the other. And then press the shin up into your fingers, feeling the outer hip muscles engage a bit. Go ahead, grab your strap. We're going to bring around the ball of the foot. Then extend the sole of the foot up to the ceiling. And then at first, go ahead, let it just drop down a bit, right? It could be at an angle. We want to get the leg nice and straight. So both legs are super straight here. You've got the quad muscles engaged in both legs, really strong. And then you can start to pull the foot toward the wall behind you using the hands on the strap. That's why we're using it. But also, you're using those deep belly muscles that are helping to pull that leg toward you. The hip flexors are also engaged here. The psoas is both. It goes from the spine all the way underneath to the top of that thigh bone. Press the foot up into the strap. Feel that nice stretch on the back of the leg. Nice. We'll take one more round of breath. And then from here, let's go ahead, slide the strap off, keep the foot up for a second, and then slowly lower that right leg down to meet the left. The slower you go, the more you're going to feel those muscles engaging. You'll feel the core muscles engage, you'll feel the hip flexors engage. Eventually, the heel's going to come down to the mat. It might take longer than you think, but when it does, go ahead, let both feet drop out to the side for a second. Feel the difference. So for me, and maybe you notice this, how it feels, that right hip area feels a little more open. It feels a little less congested because of that stretch that we were doing. So let's come back to that reclined mountain pose. Again, the legs are nice and engaged. We've got that long line from the heels up through the crown of the head. This time we're leaving the right leg in place and we're pulling the left knee into the chest. And again, make some circles with the ankle, with the thigh bone and the hip socket. You might notice that the hips are different side to side, and that's pretty normal. Part of it is the way we're built, you know, just put together. They can be different. And part of it is just our postural habits, you know, the way we drive, the way we sit. It can make one leg or one hip a little tighter than the other. Just notice. Part of our practice is really just about noticing how things feel. When you're ready, get that strap around the ball of the foot, lift the left leg, press into the strap. You can see I've wrapped the straps around my hands here. You could try that, or you could just grip the strap. Couple things to look for here. Is your low back flattening all the way to the mat? That's one way the body's trying to sneak out of this hamstring stretch. So if it's doing that, if you notice that, you can just tilt the pelvis forward a little bit. And even that little rotation, you'll feel it in your hamstring. Make sure that the hip isn't hiked up, meaning that the hip isn't going up toward your shoulder, so you're not curving and trying to kind of get a little bend in there. But we're really isolating the stretch in the back of that lifted leg. Leg is straight, right leg is straight, both legs are engaged. We'll take one more round of breath. And then go ahead, move the strap out of the way. And then slowly go ahead and lower that left leg down to meet the right leg. And then when it does, land on the mat. You can let the feet drop out to the side again. And see how this feels. Did you bring a sense of balance back into the body? From here, go ahead and pull both knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Come up into that little ball shape. And maybe roll around a little bit. Make little circles. One direction, the other. It's like a nice way to massage out the low back. Maybe roll up and down the length of the spine a couple times. Again, we're getting this freebie back massage here. And then we're just going to roll up and over. And we're going to come to our tabletop. So, in our tabletop, let's get the hands about shoulder width, and we want the wrists right underneath the shoulders. So just look where they are, spread your fingers nice and wide, get those wrist creases parallel to the short edge of the mat. Press the fingers into the mat. We've got the hips over the knees. We're pressing the tops of the feet gently into the mat. And let's start moving with some cows and some cats. So on your inhale, drop the belly, lift the gaze, pull that heart forward, lift the hips, and then start to round into the back for your cat. And you can take this nice and slowly, or whatever pace is going to work for you, right? You just want to feel the movement, feel that nice, graceful wave shape that's running through your spine as you do this. Another powerful place to connect your breath to your practice. So as I'm inhaling through my cow, I'm reversing and using a full exhale to come through my cat. And look, while you're here, if there's any spot that feels really nice, like you're getting a juicy squeeze, go ahead and just hang out there. You don't have to move the whole time. If there's something that feels like it's waking your back up or waking your torso up, go ahead and just pause there. You can also add some other movement in if you like. If you want to look out over one shoulder, look out over the other shoulder, that can feel nice. It can feel nice to drop the hips back toward the heels a little bit and then come back. Maybe make some circles. So you're rolling out the wrists a little bit here, reversing direction if you took one direction. And then we're coming back to tabletop. So we're going to set up for a spinal balance here. So go ahead, step that right foot back, coming up onto the ball of the foot. And then take a couple rocks back and forth. And when you press back, feel that nice stretch in the back of the leg. Do that a couple times, and then we'll bring the shoulders back over the wrists. Inhale, we're lifting that right leg up. And we're not opening the hip. We're trying to keep the hips level. You can take a peek underneath. Make sure that your toes are pointing right down to the mat. The heel's about hip height. And then go ahead, stay there, or lift the left arm. So you've got that left bicep up by your left ear. You're reaching to the front of the room. Pressing through the heel and back of you. Reaching with the left hand in front of you. Imagine someone has your left hand and they're gently pulling, and someone else has your right ankle. They're gently pulling. We're going to take a couple of those elbow to knee taps. So take a nice inhale. Exhale, elbow to your knee. Inhale to extend. Exhale, elbow to knee. Inhale to extend. And one last time. Exhale, elbow to knee. And then we'll re-extend. And then go ahead, lower the left hand, lower the right knee. Here's where it might feel nice to just gently come onto the back of that right hand. Stretch it out a little bit. Stretch out the wrist. And then we'll do that on the other side. So when you're ready, this time we're stepping the left foot back. We're on the ball of the foot. We're taking a couple rocks back and forth. And then getting the shoulders right over the wrist. The arms are nice and straight. I'm just going to inhale and float that left foot up. Again, peek underneath. Make sure that you're pointing the toes straight down. Keep the spine nice and neutral here. You can press that right shin into the mat a little bit. And then go ahead, add the right arm. So this is that spinal balance. You've probably also heard this called bird dog. You know, if you've ever done PT, physical therapy for stuff, this is really, really good for the back. Right, again, we've got the posterior chain that's engaged here. Our core is engaged here. So inhale to reach, exhale, elbow to knee. We're finding a little bit of that cat shape as we round. Inhale to reach, exhale, elbow to knee. Inhale to reach, we'll do it one more time. Exhale, elbow to knee. Then we'll re-extend, and then lower the hand, lower the leg. Let's take a round of cow and cat again right here. So lower the belly, come through your cow, round through your cat. We'll come back to neutral, and we're going to make our way to our child's pose from here. So big toes come together on the sides. Separate the knees a little bit. Sink the hips down and back. Again, if your knees really bug you, you can leave your hips high for a puppy pose. So that would look more like this. Otherwise, you're in child's pose. And in child's pose, if you want to keep your knees together and just drape your torso over that, that's one version of that. That feels nice. It helps to open across the back a little bit more, I think. If you want that more restful one, you could separate the knees and kind of drape the torso between them. You can let the arms just rest for a moment. And then what we're going to do is we're going to reach the hands as far forward as you can. Elbows are up off the mat. Spread the fingers nice and wide. Straighten into the arms. And then we're going to lift the hips, tuck the toes underneath, and we're going to make our way to down dog. So pushing the hips up and back. And at this first one, let's go ahead, bend both legs really deeply. See if you can push the hips up even more. You're thinking about getting the spine as long as you can get it, creating some space in that area. And then let's slowly straighten the legs. And let's take a minute and walk out our dog. So go ahead, bend into the right leg. Push the left heel down to the mat. And then let's switch. So right heel down to the mat. You're bending the left knee. Keeping those arms nice and strong and engaged. And just moving at your own pace here. Following your breath. Getting into those hamstrings. Getting into those calf muscles. Those are those muscles that if we're, when we're active, we're using them. And they get tight. And, I think part of it, too, is honestly, a lot of the tightness comes from being inactive. Even though I run and cycle, and have been doing it for a long time. You know, I still spend probably more time sitting than I'd like to, but it's life. You know, we have to do things. That's when our muscles get tight and short and weak, all the things we don't want. But this is a way to open it up. I'm also getting into the shoulders here, rotating the upper arms outward a little bit, so I'm spinning my biceps forward. I'm keeping that pressure in from the base of the index finger and the base of the thumb. I'm pressing those down into the mat. We'll take one more round of breath here. So see if you can inhale your hips up a little bit more. And then go ahead, drop your knees. We're just going to sit back. And then from here, we're just going to come down onto our backs. We're going to end the way we started. So we're going to find that reclined mountain pose. But then we're going to come back to that Shavasana shape. So separate the feet a little. Let the feet just drape out to the side. They're just drooping, draping, dropping. You can choose your DR word there. Back of the head is resting on the mat. My palms are facing up. Take a deep breath, and on the exhale, release all the tension that you're holding. Feel the limbs get nice and heavy. Take an inhale. Take an exhale. Feel what you've done just with that short flow. See how the muscles feel. Maybe you feel it a little more open. Notice where you're feeling it. Maybe the shoulders, maybe the wrists, maybe the legs are feeling a little more open. And I'm going to instruct a Shavasana right here. And on my videos, you're not always going to have a long Shavasana that I guide you through, because I prefer to just let you take as much time as you want, so you can stop the video or let it play out. But what you want to do is just let yourself relax, right? Like, this is a hard thing to do, but it is. Because we hold tension. You know, we get stressed out and we think about things, and maybe our shoulders are reaching up to our ears as if that helps somehow. Maybe we're holding our belly tight. Maybe that's where our tension lives, or just anywhere. And Shavasana is where we just let it go. And by giving ourselves permission to relax deeply for a few minutes, we let the benefits of the practice, so the moves, the poses that we just went through, that stretching, contracting, strengthening, and stretching of the muscles, we let the benefits of that just settle into the body. You can almost think of it like when you water a plant, right? You drop the water in, and then the soil takes that and just absorbs it. It kind of fills everything. And that's what we're trying to imagine with the body, so that all the effort that we just made in that little flow, you just find a place to rest in the body. You don't need to follow your breath when you're doing your Shavasana. You just need to relax. If you drift off, that's fine. So if you want to rest here a little longer, you can just let the video play out. Otherwise, what you can do is just start to wiggle the fingers and the toes a little bit. Bring some movement back. And then when you feel ready, just roll onto one side for a second. Just use your hand or your forearm to prop your head up. So you're in this little sort of curved shape. Just blinking your eyes back open if you closed them. Letting the blood pressure stabilize a bit. And then when you're ready, you can just make your way up. You know, you maybe find a comfortable seat for a moment, see how that feels. So there you go. If you did that along and that was your first time doing yoga, you're awesome. You just put a W in the column for today. Hope you liked it, obviously. So yeah, so you can go back and review the alignment of those poses that we just did in that short little intro type of flow. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you liked the video, please hit like. If you don't want to miss any of these, the whole series is available, so just hit subscribe. I put 2 brand new flows of targeted flows up every week, so if you don't want to miss those, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Yeah, now I hope this is something that's interesting to you. If it is, you can just keep watching the series. I'm going to take it through you know, that base set of poses that's going to allow you to follow along with all the flows that I have here on Long Game Yoga, as well as if you want to jump into a real class with real human beings. you know, it could be intimidating, but if you do this basic beginner's course for athletes, you're going to see that you'll be totally comfortable in any yoga class, whether it's online or in person. Yeah, and I really think that if you're somebody who's been active and who likes to stay active and you want to keep being active at the level that you want to, yoga can be such a great tool in the toolbox for staying fit and staying healthy for that. So I hope you give it a try. It's made a big difference for me, and I think it can make that same kind of difference for you, and that's what the channel's here for. So thank you for flowing with me. I hope to see you again on the mat. Take care.